Everybody, and welcome back to AEG's podcast. Today, I have our dear friend Steve McIssac with Inside Education. I'm delighted to have him as a guest. And Steve, I am glad that you're here. Thank you so much for your interest in joining me today.
Oh, I'm delighted. Thanks so much for the invitation. What we're talking about here is what I've spent a very long time working on and working towards. So we're always happy to share some insights and to collaborate with others. So thanks for the invite.
I'm aware. I heard that from Andy with Careers Next Generation that you're very much a collaborator. So I'm glad that he made that introduction.
For sure. And so am I. Yeah. So we work very closely our work, I guess, is in the education support world within the province of Alberta, related to energy, natural resources, and the environment. And I say those things as if they don't overlap in 1,000 different ways. And of course, they do. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Inside Education is working with partners and knowing really well what our peers are doing in the education support field. So for Andy to have reached out at Careers Next Generation to make the connection is helpful. We actually work very closely with Careers, so close, in fact, that we actually share an office downtown Calgary.
Awesome.
So we're peers and also roommates, which is delightful.
That's awesome. Great to have a roommate like Andy. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Steve. That's great. I noticed on your tagline, supporting teachers, inspiring students. I love it, but I want to know what it means to you.
Mm-hmm. Supporting teachers and inspiring students. It's I think a clever tagline, but it really is the heart of what Inside Education does. So we began in about 1985 as a volunteer organization with a realization that there were so many topics and concerns and issues and perspectives related to environment at the time that there should be an arm's length organization that could be arm's length from everyone, but also gather together everyone, and to support teachers, to provide the tools and resources that teachers want and need. So we began with delivering and developing, I guess the other way around, learning resources for teachers. And teachers said to us, "This is great. Thank you for the resources, but I want to learn myself. I'm a former teacher, so I can say this. We want to perpetuate the myth of omniscience, I guess, in a way for teachers that we as teachers, we know everything. So can you teach me?" And we have expanded our support to include extended teacher professional development workshops, up to and including a week-long deep dive in the summer where teachers spend 5 or 6 days on a bus traveling across the province, going to pulp mills and going to the oil sands and going to wind farms, and kind of experiential learning for teachers. So providing the knowledge, providing the tools for teachers, and even sometimes providing some grant funding to help them meet their curriculum objectives with the goal of inspiring students. So what we try and do is provide experiential learning for young people, and that's in our main focus area is about grade 4 and up. Although we do like to spend time with the younger students as well, and providing some fun tools for them. But it's to inspire students to be engaged in solutions. Very often, I think we get mired down in the things that are wrong and the problems that are facing society as a whole, I guess. But in our sort of our collective lane of environment and natural resources, we get mired down in the problem. So what we try and focus on is innovations and futures, and for young people to see themselves in as part of the future, not apart from it. So things can be done, things that they can do, not things that are done to them, if you know what I mean. So we want to have young people be engaged, be inspired. I really say at the end of the day, if we can make a young person say that was cool, then we've succeeded. And that's what we try really hard to do.
I love it. That's awesome. May I ask how many schools you're in Alberta?
Oh my goodness. So last year, we impacted about 400 classrooms directly in 120 communities. Wow. So I guess our classroom is the province of Alberta, and our mandate is to support schools from Fort Ship to Pincher Creek and all points in between. So Literally, as we speak, I've got staff in Wainwright, staff on a Hutterite colony in southeastern Alberta. We see ourselves kind of as the people, so we're the direct connection with the learners. And now that the barriers that were presented over the last several years seem to have receded, we're back in front of people, and we couldn't be happier.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So then back to that comment about experiential learning, then you're actually physically in the schools, coming alongside the teachers doing their good work and then delivering these experiential pieces. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So we provide in-school programs. So for lack of a better description, we are guest speaker people.
Oh,
But we also do, in the warm weather months, we have a series of forest education field trip sites where students come to us for the day, and we tromp around in the woods and we talk about the ecology, the issues, human development on the forested landscape. So it's, again, experiential learning, getting your hands and feet and knees dirty. And that's province-wide. We have a pretty substantial wetlands network of wetlands education sites. So yeah, so it's either in school or in the field. We do some of the virtual. Certainly, it's something that we all had to discover 3 years ago, and we do some of that. But the direct connection to the learner is really where our lane is, and where we're the happiest, frankly.
well, no doubt. Well, thank you for sharing that part.
Mm-hmm.
I see that now, of course, you mentioned earlier that the organization started in 1985. You've been in it for a very long time, early 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
What have you noticed with the young students' engagement in it over the years in energy and environment specifically?
Yeah, it's been a long career and a really fun one. So I guess really engagement is the right word. We've gone from a sort of, fill my head with facts sort of approach when we first started, and help with nature appreciation. And not that those things aren't the nature appreciation part isn't still important. We've gone from some providing facts to providing opportunities to engage. What we found really is we're looking at a generation of young people who are fundamentally disinterested waiting till some, mythical and magical when I grow up, to be engaged in what's happening in society and in our field, in energy, environment, and natural resources. They want to understand how they can be engaged. How is this impacting them? A young person gets told every day, "You are the future. You're going to be the next." And what the young people have said to us is, "Well, that's nice, but what are you doing?" So help us understand what the adults are doing now to help affect change, to help make things better, and then show me how I can be a part of that. And that level of interest and engagement really is motivating. It's not easy, boy, because there's all these the depth of questions that we get are they grow deeper every day. But to see the passion and the excitement and the wanting to be engaged, that's been, I guess, the biggest change since I started.
I believe that. I certainly see that in my own world, and I think that's the true life wrap program right there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I like to, my job is to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. I think that we and our peers in the energy and environmental education world have really helped with that. We've built upon our roots of outdoor nature education and scaffolded that up to talking about more complex topics and issues, and young people are eager learners, and it's really inspiring for me as an educator.
I believe that. That's awesome. And it helps them know the reason why. We all want to need the reason why we do things.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Steve. That's awesome. Now, you just completed a pretty important event, your Provincial Youth Summit, Generate and Navigate 2023, right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Tell us all about it.
Wow. So we spent 3 and a bit days in Canmore with bluebird skies, so that part was not hard to take. We had 20 high schools. We had 19 high schools from Alberta and one from Fort St. John, BC.
Wow.
Each sent 6 students and 2 teachers. Many of them had a complicated selection process where they chose the students to participate. And we spent 3 days, if you'll excuse the water pun, deep diving into issues related to energy, climate, and water. And the students participated in keynote presentations. We had Jacob Irving, the CEO of the Energy Council of Canada, was one of our speakers. Many of our guests will know Kim Sturgis from the Alberta
Yeah,
Water
I
Portal.
love Kim.
So Kim was on one of our panels.
Mm.
So we had expert presenters, as well as hands-on workshops, tours. On the energy side, we went to the TransAlta's Horseshoe Dam hydroelectric facility.
That would have been fascinating.
It was awesome, particularly because the young people recognized, if those people are watching saw The Last of Us, the TV show The Last of Us, there was a scene where the 2 main characters walked by a hydro facility. It was the Horseshoe Dam. So the kids were super excited, and they were looking to see if there were zombies or whatever.
Of course.
And there weren't, as it turned out. So there were tours, hands-on opportunities. Really great engagement, and everything we could think of, frankly, when it comes to energy, climate, and water, from all points of view, all perspectives, as many as we could. On the energy side, we talked about hydro, we talked about oil sand, we talked about small modular nuclear, we talked about solar, we talked about wind. As much information as we could provide to the students in as many different ways as we could, so it wasn't just sit and listen to adults make PowerPoint shows. In fact, we had very few of those. At the end of the day, the reason for the program. So we had 20 high schools from across Alberta and into BC. What we call this was the Generate Navigate Youth Leadership Summit, and leadership was really the key word. We challenged the 6 students, in fact, we required them to develop an education and action plan to share with their peers back in their school and community. Our goal is, while it's wonderful that these young leaders got all this information and all this experience and got to see where the zombies are, it's the question is, what are you going to do with what you've learned, and what impact? Again, providing opportunities for young people to engage in solutions. So they're all, as we speak, working on action plans that they're going to submit back to us, and we're going to help them with and help them implement for the remainder of the school year. So my goodness, it was wonderful. It was inspiring. I always say at these events, it makes me feel good about getting old, because these young people are going to take care of us. These are the young leaders, and gosh, it was couldn't have been a more inspiring for us opportunity.
Very inspirational indeed. There'll be future Avatar program students. That's awesome.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. And what would you think, from your perspective, is your advice to young energy leaders now, to be energy leaders and environmental stewards, to be engaged in the future of energy of Alberta?
So when we talk to young people, we try and provide role models to young people. The 2 people I mentioned earlier at the summit, so Jacob and Kim, I mean, they are maybe slanting on the demographic that's a little older. What we try and additionally do is provide young mentors, to provide opportunities for young people to see themselves in today's leaders, and to find out and talk to the individuals. How did you get to where you are? How did you become who you are? We were just absolutely gobsmacked, really. 3 of our participants in the program on the weekend, including one of them that works for Inside Education now, and 2 of our expert guests were student participants in previous Inside Education Youth Summits when they were in high school.
Aww.
So to make that connection, and then the advice to young people is to engage. I've always said I would talk to my staff, and we sort of talk about this a lot. Is nobody cares what you're against or what as an individual anyway. I'm not particularly interested in what you're against. I want to know what you're for. What do you want to work towards? Being against things is not really productive. It's just people getting mad and yelling on Twitter.
Agreed.
What are you for? How do you engage and be part of solutions? It's absolutely right that we can always do things better. But if we don't overtly try, if we don't engage, if we don't just sort of dig in our heels and say, I know always best, there's the progress doesn't happen. And young people see that. And I think, frankly, to be honest with you, they get annoyed by that, by adults doing that.
For sure.
They want to see the opportunities for us to how are adults helping to solve problems, and then how can I be part of that? So that's what we really try and encourage young people to do, is to be part of solutions.
I love it. So you're reteaching them if they've lost their way, which happens for all of us. We were born with yes, and somewhere along the way we ended up with a whole bunch of no's, and then we end with no. And that's not you and I, obviously, but it's certainly
For
a
sure.
lot of people that start with no. And it sounds to me like this is all around optimism, inspiration. Let's go with yes, let's figure it out, and let's do it together.
And focusing on the future, focusing on solutions, not focusing on problems. The positive message, I like that a lot. The focusing on the yes. I think that is going to make young people inspired, not just sort of, that's just adult nonsense, and why would I be interested in that?
Yeah.
I want to be part of the future, to future solutions. And why do I have to wait until I'm graduate from university or something? Why can't I be part of it now? And what we try to do in Inside Education is show them that there are ways to do that.
I love it. What a bigger impact too. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Steve, thank you for your great work with Inside Education. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise with everyone in your circle and network, and for Albertans, and taking your time today to share with the AEG members as well.
It's my great pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. Everyone, Steve McIssac with Inside Education. Thank you again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Pleasure.